Sometimes the fall of just one city can literally change the entire course of human history. And today, we're diving into one of those exact moments, the 1453 siege of Constantinople. And let me tell you, this was not just another battle. This was the final, dramatic, curtain call for one of history's most legendary empires.
Just let that sink in for a second. 1,000 years. For over a millennium, this city was the beating heart of the Byzantine Empire, which was, for all intents and purposes, the Roman Empire just continued. And in the spring of 1453, it was all about to come crashing down. So, how on earth does an empire that old finally fall?
And here's the really wild part. How did its destruction actually help create the modern world as we know it? You see, the fall of Constantinople didn't just slam the door on one era. It unintentionally kicked open the door to another. It sent this massive shockwave across the world that helped propel Europe right out of the Middle Ages. To get how that happened, we've got to go back and see the empire in its final, desperate days.
Okay, so by the mid-15th century, calling the Byzantine realm an empire was, well, it was being a little generous. What was once this massive, sprawling power was now, quite frankly, hanging on by a thread.
Yeah, the once mighty Byzantine Empire was really just a shadow of its former self. I mean, after centuries of brutal civil wars, plagues, not to mention the devastating Fourth Crusade, it was basically just the city of Constantinople itself. It was economically exhausted, completely isolated politically, and, oh yeah, totally surrounded by a powerful and ambitious new force.
So this sets the stage for a classic confrontation, right? But with a really revolutionary twist. This was a clash between ancient, time-tested defenses and a terrifying, brand-new form of military technology. And the sheer imbalance between the two sides, it was absolutely staggering. On one side, you have Constantinople with maybe 7,000 defenders total, hiding behind their legendary but ancient Theodosian walls, and on the other side, you've got the Ottoman Empire, fielding this massive, modern army of up to 80,000 soldiers. The odds were just not good.
And leading that massive army was Sultan Mehmed II. Get this, he was only 19 years old, but he was brilliant. He was incredibly ambitious, and he was completely obsessed with conquering this city. It was a prize that no Islamic ruler had ever managed to capture. For him, it was his destiny.
1,200 pounds. That's how much a single stone ball fired by Mehmet's new super cannons weighed. We're talking about state-of-the-art siege weapons that could pulverize fortifications that had stood strong for centuries. For the very first time, Constantinople's legendary walls were truly, deeply vulnerable.
But look, this siege wasn't going to be won by firepower alone. Mehmed's strategy was every bit as devastating as his cannons were powerful. He turned this whole thing into a masterpiece of both brains and brawn. For 53 straight days, the city just endured a relentless, soul-crushing bombardment. The defenders worked like crazy day and night to repair the ancient walls, but the Ottoman cannons just kept hammering away. You can just imagine the immense pressure they were under.
The Byzantines had one key defensive advantage. They had this massive iron chain stretched across the mouth of their main harbor, the Golden Horn, which kept the Ottoman navy out. So what does Mehmed do? He does the unthinkable. He orders his men to build a road out of oiled logs and then physically drag his entire fleet of warships over land and drop them into the harbor, completely bypassing the chain. I mean, what an audacious, brilliant move. Suddenly, the city was under attack from the sea as well, stretching its few defenders to the absolute breaking point. So, after weeks and weeks of bombardment and all this clever maneuvering, the time finally came. It was time for the final, decisive blow. In the pre-dawn hours of May 29th, Mehmed launched an all-out, no-holds-barred assault. Wave after wave of soldiers, including his elite Janissary Corps, just stormed the massive breaches in the walls that the cannons had blasted open. The fighting was absolutely brutal and desperate. But the city's fate, after all of this, turned on a single, devastating mistake. In all the chaos, a small gate used by foot soldiers, the Kirka Porta, was apparently left unbarred. It was a tiny oversight, but it was all the Ottomans needed. A small group of their soldiers slipped right through.
Once they were inside, they fought their way to the top of a tower and raised the Ottoman flag. Now imagine you're a defender, fighting for your life on the main wall. You look over your shoulder and you see the enemy's flag flying inside the city. It had to be absolutely devastating. The defense just collapsed as panic and confusion spread like wildfire.
And the last Roman emperor, Constantine XI, he reportedly tore off his imperial robes and charged straight into the fight, dying right alongside his soldiers. With his death, the line of Roman emperors that stretched all the way back to Augustus Caesar was finally officially broken. The empire was over.
So, the city had fallen. But the story, it doesn't end there. Nope. In a lot of ways, this is where its global impact truly begins.
The immediate results were just profound. Many historians use this exact date to mark the end of the Middle Ages. The main Christian shield in the East was just gone. The Ottoman Empire now controlled vital trade routes, and Constantinople itself was renamed Istanbul, becoming the magnificent capital of a new global superpower.
But the unintended consequence? This is maybe the most significant part of the whole story. In the aftermath of the conquest, tons of Greek scholars fled west, and they took with them priceless ancient manuscripts, knowledge that had been preserved in Constantinople for centuries. Now, this wasn't just about some old books. This was the rediscovery of Greek philosophy, math, science, art, stuff that had been pretty much lost to Western Europe. And this sudden, massive influx of classical wisdom is one of the key things that helped light the fuse for the Italian Renaissance. It really leaves us with a fascinating question to chew on, doesn't it? A single unlocked gate might have sealed the fate of an empire, but in doing so, it also scattered the seeds of ancient knowledge across Europe, seeds that helped grow a whole new world. The end of one chapter truly became the explosive beginning of another.